Welcome everyone to Nuyem Nights. We'll start us off with some words of gratitude, giving thanks for all of our relations and all of Earth's creations, giving thanks for the two-legged, for the four-legged, for the ones that swim, for the ones that fly, for the ones that crawl upon the earth, for the ones we cannot touch with our hands, but that we are touched by deep inside, giving thanks at this time for that place in our heart that has led us here to be together at this time in the way of connecting, learning, seeing, feeling, understanding, honoring and giving thanks to our homeland, to the beautiful homeland that held us throughout time, giving thanks for the place where the mountains meet the ocean, for the lushness and abundance of our forests, for the abundance and beauty of our waters, giving thanks at this time for all the ways in which that land has shaped and influenced and inspired our people, our language, our culture, our songs, our ceremony, our clothing, our tools, honoring that deep kinship that we have with the homeland, that deep bond that shows itself in so many different forms, honoring and giving thanks at this time for the depth of winter, the time of storytelling and connection, the time of deep reflection of the inner worlds. May this be held in a good way, in a loving way, in a safe way. Giving thanks at this time for all the things that keep us well, all the things that uphold our wellness emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. May those things continue to hold us in our wellness in a good way, in a loving way, in a sacred way. Giving thanks at this time for all that will come from our time together during this Nuyem event session, all that will come, all that will echo through our hearts and through our minds and through our bodies in the aftermath of listening and receiving what we're going to listen to and receive at this time. May it land gently in your heart. May it uplift your spirit. May it ease your mind to receive what's going to be shared at this time.
Okay, we didn't really make a schedule today, so I think I was sharing last though. Ab, do you have anything to present today?
Yeah.
Awesome. Take it away, Ab.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. This goes back to last week where I was talking about place names. And Nicole asked a question about whether there's a connection between two of the place names that were in that list that I was going over. And I wasn't sure. My initial instinct told me that there wasn't really any connection, but then I went and did some research. So I'll show you what I discovered here. So I looked in the Lincoln and Math Dictionary. So this is the dictionary that was published in 1986. It's a Heisler/Hinoxiala dictionary compiled by Neville Lincoln and John Rath, who had previously worked with the other North Wakashan languages. And they published what they called a root list in 1980. So I actually checked both of those documents because I was doing some cross-referencing, so one led me to the other. So the first one here, I mentioned that Heisler words are built from root words. So in the back of the Lincoln and Math Dictionary, they have a list of root words. So for Timani Nuh, this is what they list as the root word, Tima. So this little symbol here, you probably recognize that from math. They use this to indicate a root word, which is like the beginning part of a word. it's not complete. It needs to have something added to it in order for it to be a complete word. So they listed just a question mark. So that means they're not really sure what the meaning of tima is. But they do list it. This RL means root list, the 1980 document. And they gave every entry in that root list a number. So they say refer to number 640 or 674 in the root list. So this is the cross-referencing that I was talking about. So they say that the item below is more likely to be analyzed as Tsimani. And one thing that I do when I'm doing my research is I cite my sources. So this is the Lincoln Rath Dictionary, 1986. LR just basically means Lincoln and Rath. 430 is the page number. So I mentioned this is in the back of the dictionary. So it's over 500 pages. So 430 is where this root list is explained. So then what I did was I looked up the root word that was based, or full words that were based on that root. There was one word, which is Tsimani, which we went over last week. So they described this to me, small clams, or baby horse clams specifically, with pink shells, which occur only at Kamano. So that's their definition of Tsimani. And the meaning of Tsimani, which they also list, means place with, and then if you go back up here, small baby clams. And they mentioned that it's the name of Kamano. So these two words are on page 57 of the Lincoln and Rath Dictionary. So that's Tima. Pay close attention to the word structure here. We have a regular C and then IMA. So that's the root of Tsimani. And then I looked up another root word. You notice a slight difference. It's spelled the same way, but this time it has an apostrophe on top of the C. So what this means is that this C is what we call an ejective sound. So it's a very sharp, abrupt sound, whereas a regular C is it's a softer sound. So regular C, or ejective C. So that's one main difference between those two words. It might not seem like there's a big difference, but that apostrophe actually does make a big difference. They also were unsure of the meaning of this root word. So they list this as a separate entry in the root list, which is entry number 772. And this root word is listed in the 1980 dictionary, page 433. And they give a list of words based on Tima. So the first one is Timota, which they define as a group of logs or a nickname of Kidnap village. There's another word, Timos. PL stands for plural. So there's a plural form for this, which is Titsamos. Titsamos means old drift log, also a chief's name. I don't know which chief in particular, but there must be a chief in our village that has the name Timos somewhere. The next word is Timotista. Timotista, which means to turn into a log. Well, I'm not sure why I have this listed twice, but that shouldn't actually be there. And then the last word is Timodis. So that's a singular form. The plural form is Timodis. And this means old drift log on the beach. So there's different words. They come from this one root word here. They have this in common. They start with Tima. And the different endings lead to different meanings of each word. So these are all on page 62 of the 1980 dictionary. So from there, since they list these, they give us these root listings, I decided to look those up. So this is the Lincoln and Rath root list from 1980. So 674 is the first one. The way that they have this dictionary laid out is they have 3 columns. HE stands for Heitstuk or Heitstukwala, which is the Bella Bella dialect. This OO stands for Owikyala, which is the rivers in that dialect. So they have those listed as basically one group, one dialect. So since this root list, this root word is under Heitstuk Owikyala, it means it comes from that dialect. HA is Haisla, there's nothing listed there. KW is Kwakwala, also nothing listed there for the century. So this means that this is only a Heitstuk or Owikyala root word. And again, they weren't really able to define what this means. They think that it's only in the Heitstuk and Owikyala. So the full word that they use as an example is Chimani. And they define this to mean horse clown. And then they say here they refer us to team, which is a different root listing, number 72. But this particular listing is on page 145 of the 1980 root list. So then I looked up 772. It's not in Heitstuk Owikyala. It is a Haisla root list, or root word, not a Kwakwala root word. Again, they're not sure of the meaning, but they say in Haisla, Tsimotsa means group of uprooted trees. And then they refer to 674, which is the entry just above, which I just went through. So it seems kind of inconclusive, but there does appear to be some kind of a connection between those 2 words. So that's basically what I found in my research, and that's one of the reasons why I do language research, is to uncover things like that. So I go really deep into the language to discover what I can about word structure and meaning behind the word structure. And it also leads me to other dialects, which are similar to our dialects, since they're the Wakashan dialects are grouped together. So we're related to Heitstukwala, Owikyala, and Kwakwala. So that was really interesting. Originally, I didn't think there was any connection, but it does appear that there is a connection through Heitstukwala, through the Bella Bella dialect. So I thought that was really interesting, and didn't know that I was going to uncover that information. But I'm glad that I did a deep dive and uncovered that. So I think that was pretty cool. And I wanted to share, I'm going to switch to my web browser here, just to show people a little bit about the work that I've been doing. So this is the Haisla calendar that I developed. I finished this just a couple of weeks ago. So I call this Gizuatus Haisla, which essentially translates to calendar of Haisla. So it's for this year, 2024. So this is the Haisla website. This is where it's posted. So there's a PDF viewer on the website, which is really handy because you can actually take a look and see the entire document. There are definitions here of the names of the months in Haisla. The names of the days of the week are also here. a printed copy. I didn't make very many printed copies because I did them by hand. They were I was only able to make so many. I wanted to make more, but I've just been so busy I hadn't had a chance to do that. So there are very few actual printed copies available right now. So this is probably the best way to go if you want the copies to get it digitally here on the Heisler Gal website. Towards the back, I've got the numbers listed from starting from 1 up to 31. So there wasn't enough room for me to include the actual numbers in each of these little squares. Because if you take a look at the numbers from like 20, for example, 21, this whole thing is 21. So there's not really enough room to write all that in this little square. So I just used the numbers in the actual calendar and then listed the highest names for the numbers in the back of the calendar. And then I've also got other information. So I have a quick list of the days of the week, the seasons, quick list of the months, also salmon species. You might wonder why I have salmon species listed here. Well, it goes to, if you look at the names of the middle months from May to October, they're all related to the species of salmon that run during those times. So you have a quick list there of related subjects, months, and salmon species. You have lyrics for happy birthday, because people have birthdays throughout the year. So thought it'd be handy to have lyrics there for the song that you can look up. So if you want to copy this, you can go to the website, use this PDF viewer, or you can download it by pressing on this button here. You can also go up here and download it from there, or you can print it directly from the PDF viewer. So the PDF viewer is really handy. You have different controls. You can zoom in. You can scroll through your document. Yeah, so that's something that is very handy to have. So that is the Heisler Gal website. That's just one of the resources that I've developed. There is a ton of stuff on here. I started this website in 2018, I believe. I've been adding a lot of stuff to it. And that was the main purpose of starting this website, was to have one place for a lot of different Heisler resources. So you can see there's a lot of stuff on here. So if you've never visited the Heisler Gal website, this is the web address up here, heislergala.wordpress.com/Heisler-calendar. I can also put this address in the chat as well. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'll drop it there. So anyone who wants to visit the website can go there. It'll take you directly to the calendar.
That's impressive, Ab. Do you think you could zoom in on Giltwanuch there? In the last episode that we had, I wasn't able to zoom in on Giltwanuch. The picture that you have on your website?
Up here?
Yeah, so going to show the viewers Giltwanuch, where the canoe is.
Okay, so these two, like this shape right here, that kind of looks like the impression of a canoe, like the underside of a canoe. And this one also looks like the underside of a canoe. So when the sun sets behind this first one, that indicates that it is herring season. That's the first canoe. The second canoe here that's when willikins start running. So that's why this is called Giltwanuch, because it literally means it has a canoe. So it refers to these canoe shapes on the ridge of the mountain range. So that is Giltwanuch, and that's basically how we're able to tell what time of year it was by watching where the sun sets behind this mountain range. So that's Giltwanuch.
Giltwanuch. Giltwanuch.
Giltwanuch.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how.
So I'm just trying to navigate here.
Hello.
I've got the
What?
there's a bar kind of in my way. I can't actually go to the next tab.
Mama.
So all right, video panel. All right. Okay, there we go. The other tab that I have here is the Instagram account for the High Ella Learners Group. So it was inactive for a while, and I've kind of revived it. So these few videos are from the past month or so. So I've posted little snippets here and there. This last one is, if I click on this and unmute it. Baba Owens. Baba Owens. Yes, there's a video of me playing the Manamana song from the Muppets and replacing Manamana with different Haisla words. So Baba Owens means my grandfather, but it also gives, besides talking about possession, this ENC at the end means that this grandfather is mine, but it also tells you that he's away. He's not around at the moment. Mama Owens, my grandmother, away. Bibi Owens, my uncle, away. And Manasseh Owens, my sibling of the same gender, away. So this was a video that I recorded last week, and you can see that I'm playing an instrument here. This is a cigar box ukulele that I built out of a cigar box and a piece of 1x2 lumber. This is red oak neck, red oak fretboard. Took me quite a while to build that, and since I finished it, well, I'm mostly finished building it, but I have it finished enough so I can play it. So I thought that would be something fun to do to help people learn a little bit more about the Haisla language. So you can see there's other snippets here that I've done recently. So those are on the Haisla Ella Learners Group Instagram page. There's also the Haisla Ella YouTube channel. So if you go there, there's videos that you can watch here. There's recorded videos that I was doing before. So if you go to videos, these are the recorded videos that I was doing. I did that for about the first half of last year. And then I started switching over to actually doing live streams. So these are, if you go into the live tab, these are all the live streams that I've done since last spring. So the first one that I did was April 28th of last year. I was doing them weekly. That proved to be a little bit much in terms of time. So this year I've switched to doing them monthly. So I did one last month, or the 5th. I just did one today, this afternoon. So the live streams happen Friday afternoons, 2 o'clock on the Haisla Ella YouTube channel. So if you happen to be on YouTube, if you're looking through the Haisla Ella page, something should pop up saying that I'm broadcasting live, so you can watch that as I'm broadcasting. If you want to go ahead and do that. If you miss the broadcast, you can watch it as a replay, so that's pretty handy. And
so up until this point of your study in our language, what do you find you enjoy the most?
I would say learning more about how the language works. That's really how I've gotten to where I am in my understanding of the language, is that curiosity about how everything works, because it's something that hasn't really been taught in language learning before with the language. And I saw that as kind of a need, and I kind of took it upon myself to start exploring that. And one thing just kind of led me to another, and that's how I got to where I am today and my understanding of the language. So it's really interesting to get an understanding of how the language works as a whole, how it compares to other similar dialects, ones that are kind of similar to our language, but are separate as well. And it's also really interesting to see the similarities between writing systems. So since I understand all of the Heisler orthographies, it's made it a lot easier for me to understand other writing systems from other dialects. Because the thing about the North Wakashan dialects is they all have the same sounds. So sounds we have in Heisler are the same ones they have in Kwakwala, the same ones they have in Owikiala, the same ones they have in Haithzukwala. The difference is in terms of the writing. There's also differences in terms of the way a lot of words are spelled and grammar and things like that. The main difference is in how those same sounds are represented differently in each dialect. So if I've done some study of the other dialects, but not a whole lot. But if I really wanted to dive deep into some of these other dialects, I'm pretty sure I would get pretty far because of the fact that I'm able to understand their writing systems. I can figure out how a lot of their writing systems work by comparing them to ours. So that's something that I find really interesting, and it's really just rewarding work being able to discover these things, because it's something that I probably wouldn't have known before I started taking this route of study and going into the language and figuring out how it works and things like that.
Ab, I have a question. Have you found anything in our language that surprised you that doesn't exist? Do you want an example? Because
yeah, sure.
in Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, they don't have a word for please.
Mhm.
You can imagine an entire people who just don't have a word to like if you mean it, you mean it. You don't have to say please. Like it was just like colonial invention, the concept of the word please. So it just makes me curious, like all the different languages and the different concepts that we've internalized as normal. If like what within our language is a bit different and kind of reflects who we are. And then, you hear some languages, they don't have a word for ceremony, or we might not have a word for tradition or things like that, because it was just such a normal part of existence that we didn't have to say it.
Yeah, that's been interesting. Like in my studies, I haven't really come across a lot of words for things that are more modern ideas in English, modern concepts, or like everyday kind of speech in English, where it's more, I guess it's kind of like polite talk, where you say good morning, or you say please and thank you. We do have a way of saying good morning, but when I think about it, I'm not really sure if we would have said that before contact. I think that's something that came about because of our surroundings, the way English society works or Western society works, or that's something that is said on a daily basis. And yeah, I haven't really come across a lot of words for those kinds of terms, please or thank you. We don't really have a word for like day. I know they do in Kwakwala. They tend to say nala, nala. I think we also have that in Haistakela, but I don't think it's actually used anymore. I think it was an older term. So we don't really have a concept of like a day, or like something where we would celebrate something. or observe something like Remembrance Day, we wouldn't really have that specific day set aside for those kinds of things. We tended to focus a little bit more on like times of the days, morning, afternoon, evening, things like that. So those have been really interesting to uncover too.
I've also heard some things about how different cultures greet one another. Like this tribe down south, they don't say how are you. They say how are you with your relatives.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like how, like, what is it like with you and your next of kin right now, or you and your family? And another tribe out east, they would greet each other with, I see your light and you are strong.
Oh,
And then the way they write it down is like, oh, that means hello. Okay, done. And then the whole like heart of it gets like cut right off. So I'm so curious as we journey with our language reclamation, the different parts of ourselves that will uncover as we continue on.
yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Cool.
So that was what I had. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. So thanks for following along.
Thanks, Ab.
Really, really like seeing that when you're doing the breakdowns and stuff like that. It just really gives me a faster pace at learning, I find. And I've been off the internet for a couple months now, and I didn't realize that you had all that work done. Like, congratulations on that. That must feel really good. I know it must get hectic in there, but you're doing phenomenal. Like, there's a lot of people really advancing our language from the work that's being done in that department. And, you know, you guys are doing an amazing job. I'm just really thrilled to see how far you're advancing now, and to hear that you're going into school for that. It's really heartwarming. I could imagine what that conversation with John Rath would have been like after you came back from school. Like, that would have been so cool. And I encourage you again to just reach out to John Rath and see if he's still around, because that'd be really interesting to see all the new connections that you can make with that. Well, thanks, Ab.
Yeah, and also wanted to mention that what I just showed you with looking at root words, I call that a root word analysis, and something that I developed for the purpose of trying to learn more about the inner workings of the language. So when I do that, what happens is that in the back of the Lincoln Rath dictionary, it has the root word definition, and it has other words listed, but no definitions for them. So what I do is I write down all of the words that are listed under that root word, and I try to guess what each of those words means based on this word structure. And then I look up each individual word in the actual dictionary. So then I can get an idea of how close I was in my guesses. And it's given me a better understanding of word structure. It's built my vocabulary like a lot. Instead of having one word, I now have like half a dozen, 10, 20 new words directly connected to that word. So it's something that has really helped me in my learning, and it's something that I developed for that purpose. So it's been something really helpful to me.
One really neat thing to talk about that and witnessing what he does with work there is we met with John Rath, and he was really impressed with our ability to speak. For one, he introduced himself. He sounded like one of our elders. It was really heartwarming. His pronunciation and everything. And then with John Rath's work, I asked Ab, I was like, can you show him how you break down the words and teach me? And you've seen John Rath coming right up, and he was like a little kid, like, I can't believe this is being used like this. And I'm not even too sure if he uses it on the same way. Like he was just like a kid watching his work being used. So thanks again, Ab.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to take like a 5-minute break and then come back? And I guess, do you want me to open up the map, Teresa, and bring you through for the visuals as you read, or do you just want to?
I do have a presentation that goes along with what
Okay, no, okay. Oh yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. So you guys want to take 5 minutes?
Sounds good.
Before we shift, while we're still in the kind of language realm of things,
Mhm.
I have a poem that I wrote about our language to
Oh.
share. Maybe we can do that and then take a break.
Yes.
Okay, I haven't read it yet. It's my first time reading it. Heather. A prayer for our returning language. You are a relative on a healing journey, and we're here to help. You have been through a lot and have taken a beating. You are a loved one, and we're here to hear you as you make your way back to us. We love you, and we want you with us. We want you in our home with us. You've never left our hearts. You live in our blood memory and pulse through our veins. You give our spirits voice, and our prayers are that much more meaningful. Our healing is intertwined as we find our way together. We hold you with tenderness and curiosity as we get to know one another again. They could not take you from us. You've been through a lot, and we've been through a lot together. We're here with you as you come back home to us. We love you. Wow.
Did you write that like recently after these events?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I
So there
felt
you
it.
go.
I felt it
Yeah.
for years though. I felt it like just sitting in language groups. When I went to Bella Bella for the big house opening, there was a couple that came from New Zealand and did a language afternoon. And it was really powerful the way they teach language there. And I stepped out and I was just feeling a lot of energy. I was like, there's a poem coming. There's a poem coming. It's getting closer. And then it came through the other day.
Just wait till the day that you could do that in our language and write it out.
Oh, that would be so incredible.
Yeah. I was thank you for that. It's really good energy. I really like that poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why don't you sing us a song, Nicole, a rediscovery song?
I thought you might.
That's how you hint around pride, eh? Make sure that you know, and then put them on the spot right in the middle.
Oh, I haven't really sang this much since he passed, since he became an ancestor. The song, I considered him.
Well, if he's gonna come support anyone, you know, he's gonna come support you in this moment now. So
I consider the late David Blurtzman one of my mentors. He really taught me a lot on so many levels. So this song came through him and Mike Wilson. I'll carry you always in my heart. I'll carry you always in my heart. All life is a circle, and we are all together, like stones dropped in the water, will ripple on forever. All life is a circle,
Awesome. Thank you very much. How do you feel now?
Really good. Man,
Yeah, got some life breathed back in you.
that song has been sung in so many beautiful ways and so many beautiful groups of people. I felt that when I was singing it, just imagining. I remember singing it in Kitlope at our rediscovery and standing around the fire at night, all in one big circle, like arm in arm, swaying to the
Yeah.
heartbeat. And then getting to sing it with him around fires and like the foothills of the Rockies and the rediscovery there. It's singing it is such a blessing because I get to feel all the places it's been, and it's been many, many places.
Yes, thank you again. I got to meet him when Teresa sent me to rediscovery training at Pearson College. And he was like attracted to me, saw me, came right up and he's like, "Hey, you must know Tom Henley." And I was like, "Yeah, he was right over there." So he went over and he had his boy there. And when he came down to the fire, he sang that song and his boy did the backup vocals and it was amazing. And his boy was tagging along to me because he found out I was a medicine man. And I never called myself a medicine man at that time. But as he kept on asking me about more plants, like he was trying to stump me, and I knew all of these plants, and then he'd come running up, medicine man, medicine man. So I have a picture of myself with David, and I was carrying his boy. Hey? And he's such a little knowledge holder, that young man. He's probably not as young as I remember him now. He's probably pretty tall. But thank you again, and I think we'll let Teresa take it from here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that beautiful song. I love Ripples on the Water. It's really nice to hear that. Um, always takes me back to rediscovery training and my own experience with rediscovery camp and the ripple effects that program, that those camps have had, and the connections that have been created through all of those experiences of people who've attended them. It's so beautiful and literally worldwide. So it's really nice to hear those songs. So tonight I'll be sharing with you a bit of feasting history and knowledge that I've acquired over time collectively when I took part, well, when I was community cultural coordinator for Haisla Nation. I had a really strong interest in unraveling and looking back at how we used to feast and how that has evolved over time and how it still continues on today in our modern world. And I also took part in a Haisla Culture and Language university course, the first cohort. And part of my studies there, I took it upon myself to dive deep into research around feasting and our ways of feasting. So I'll be sharing with you a presentation that I developed, not only for that course, but also for my own teaching purposes, because some of you may know, I teach regalia making, vest making mostly for our community members. And since towards the end of December, and up till now, I've taught about 27 students altogether from our community. So that's been something that I've been really proud of doing. Hi, Corley. Oh, she's so cute.
Say hi.
She's gonna talk to you.
Yes.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Aw,
Hi.
sweetheart. Who's number one?
Mommy.
Just turned one. Hi, baby. Aw. Okay, so I'll share my screen here, and this is the PowerPoint presentation that I've created. So Haisla feasting practices as time evolves. If you have any questions or would like to interject and add any knowledge you might have yourself, please do so. But my Nicholas, what clan do you belong to? That's one of a very common question that you'll be asked when you come into our community or Yeah, it's just a common question among a lot of our people in general, actually, in the Northwest Coast, is what clan do you belong to? And the reason why is because it's directly tied to our lineage. Long ago, marrying into the same clan was strictly prohibited because it was seen as your family unit. It was an extension of your actual blood related family members. So that's a question that you'll hear commonly is what clan are you in? And I share this this design here is by Haisla world-renowned artist Lyle Wilson. This was meant to be the symbol of Haisla Nation, and he even put it on a flag, I believe. And I really appreciate this design because it encapsulates all of our clans, and it's embodied within an eagle. If you go back into our history, the original or the very first Haisla person was said to be of the Eagle clan, and everybody that he brought into or the Eagle clan he deemed as handsome people, not in the aspect of, you know, outer appearance, but being good people, good natured, good spirited, and yeah, so of good nature. So you can see all the crests there. You have to excuse me, I'm like really winded lately. I ran out of breath quite easily. My ninth month of pregnancy, so I'm very, very exhausted a lot, so don't mind me. The clans today that we have are Kitsilk, Beaver, Akinuch, Raven, Ixduquinuch, Eagle, Halchinuch, Blackfish, Miainuch, Fish. And the clans of the past are Wolf, Frog, and Crow. The sketch you see to the side there is one that I had drawn up for the course that I was telling you about. It was me kind of re-envisioning what our big houses used to look like. They're also known as smoke houses to some. They were common places and they were shared living spaces for us at one point. And every clan had their own. So every family unit basically had their own. Not all of them were of large capacity or large sizes. They varied in size. I would make revisions to this sketch now, knowing that the house post that I drew on the outside would actually be situated on the inside of the big house instead of the outside, which is what you commonly see among Northwest Coast big houses or long houses, that their crests were like proudly displayed on the outside. But I guess for ours, a lot of them were on the inside. And then right up in the top there, you could see there was an opening there for the smoke to escape because they would have fires in there and keep everyone warm. Getsolk is the beaver clan. From what I understand, this word is actually its Tsimshian or Smalgaric word. The crests that this clan can use are the beaver, dorsal fin or dorsal fin of dogfish, fireweed, beaver's house or den, mythical giant monster, beaver called Colis, dogfish skeleton, figure of a man with his arms around his knees, and halibut. So I believe that this house post here was the figure that they're speaking of. That was a crest that we were allowed to use. This house post is actually located in the Museum of Anthropology. You can see it still there today. It's quite large. Kachinuch, which is the Raven clan. Crests that this clan can use are a raven, raven's beak, raven's head, crow, human figure with face on palms, ears, knees, and feet, an upside down guardian of the feast house. Ixduqui Inu, I might be saying that. The Eagle clan. Crests this clan can use are the eagle, owl, sea otter, ermine, shag duck, hawk, halibut, Kipaki, which was a creature like with an eagle beak turned under sharply. I'm not entirely sure on the pronunciation of that last one there because I haven't really done further research about it. What kind of bird that might be. Maybe that could be Ab's language challenge is to find out what creature that was because I've been curious about it too. But yeah, those are crests that this clan can use. Hulchinu, Blackfish or Killer Whale clan. Crests that this clan can use are the Blackfish, dorsal fin of Blackfish, Grizzly Bear, which is for some families only, Twilight, Red Sky of Evening used as face paint, Bookwist, Wild Person of the Forest, Dogfish Skeleton, One Horned Mountain Goat used as headdress, Figure with a human on its chest, Giant Deep Sea Bear, and face with red sky design on it, Purple sea urchin, kelp bulbs with faces on them, and frog. The interesting thing about the Hulchinu clan is there's actually a difference between the blackfish and killer whale species that are being that are used to identify as crests. And it's always something that's piqued my interest is that I've noticed something, just conversations I've had with different generations. Some older generations will say that they identify or come from the blackfish clan, and younger generations will say they come from a killer whale clan. And I don't know if that has to do with, intermarriages with different communities. But when I talked to my dad about it, I had asked him, like, is there a difference between the blackfish and killer whale clan? And he said that the blackfish clan is actually based off of a pilot whale, not an orca whale. So I always thought that was pretty interesting and something to note.
I wonder if the Haisla maybe had the blackfish and the kitlope had the killer whale, because the house that came down from heavens in the story in the kitlope was a killer whale house.
Right. Yeah, I was actually reading that story recently too, and I had wondered if that's where the connection comes in. Quite possibly. Mia Inu, which is the fish or salmon clan. Crests that this clan can use are the salmon, wolf, and frog. So we lost the wolf, frog, and crow clans when the epidemics of smallpox and Spanish influenza had unfortunately taken the lives of many of our people. And a lot of people in those clans sadly passed on. And so a lot of those clans or people that were in those clans and a lot of those names that belong to those clans were absorbed by other clans. I was told by an elder that the wolf clan was absorbed by, I believe, the killer whale clan or blackfish. And I can't remember where the frog clan had gone. I think it was the salmon clan. So that was an interesting observation. Oh, and then the crow clan was absorbed into the raven clan.
Do you have a question, Angie?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, I look like yuck, so I'm not putting my camera on today. I'm just getting over COVID, so life has not been good for me. Teresa, I have a question because when I talk with Joe Starr, he talks about, well, we're not the fish clan, we're the salmon clan. He says fish could be anything. It could be a bullhead. Do you want to be in the bullhead clan? In your conversations with elders, have you found people like, yeah, we're the salmon for sure, or some people, or because I don't know.
I could take that one I could
Okay.
take that. There's in the kitlope, the bottom half of the map of the kitlope, there was a salmon clan. The salmon clan was very special because if you were twins, you were put into the salmon clan for your polarities. So when the first salmons came into the river, it was a salmon clan that they would get to go and actually do that. One thing I heard too from the blackfish is they could be another clan from a marriage that came because the winter cohos and the nass, when you find them in the river, they're all black as well. So you see some people using a little tiny black salmon fish. And but yeah, the salmon clan was separated from the killer whale clan in the Kitlope, and I don't know too much of it. Teresa really stumped me with pilot whale, and then we went for a walk to the beaver at the beaver house. Me, Megan, Teresa, and Ab. My daughter Brody was there, and it popped out of the water like this, and it looked at us. And we all looked over at it, and then it went back down. And we're like, "Did you guys see that? Like, what the heck was that?" We came back, we came back home. Basically, started googling all different types of whales, and then Teresa sent me one, and it's like it has to be a pilot whale. I've never seen one in my life, so I hope that helps you with that. That's as much as I know. If anyone else has any information, feel free to speak as well.
That was actually, we were visiting the killer whale house clan, or the Blackfish House clan, the old remnants. But the funny thing about that was too, is that I was the only one that didn't see that out of our entire group, because I had my back face towards the water, and you guys were like, "Oh, did you see that?" And every time I look back, it would go underwater again. And that was really funny. Just some things just aren't meant for you to
At
see.
first, I thought it was some sort of like giant clam that came out of the water, some sort of ancient thing. I've never seen that before. So it was quite shocking to see it just pop out. And they call it telescoping, eh? We were singing, so I think the thing came out and it looked at us. And now that you said we're going to that clan's house, maybe it gave us a blessing before we went.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've heard elders identify with saying salmon versus fish, now that I really think of it. Yeah, you're right, because fish is kind of covers all fish species. That kind of makes me laugh. I never thought of that. It makes me wonder why we don't have a bullhead clan, by the way.
I was gonna say that, it actually seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was talking to a neighboring nation, and he asked me about our clan system as well. And he said we have time right now to breathe life back into here. So you take someone like what I was thinking for something like the Frog Clan, something so special, you'd need someone to know a lot about that. And to breathe life in it, all we'd have to do, in my mind, I would get Teresa to take that clan and basically breathe life right back into the frogs, because you know that she would hold it proper all the way through, and then she would be like essentially a mother of the frog clan. And then you could do that with the other ones. And the person I was talking to, he said really bad luck kept on going on in their nation until they did that, and they brought their clan system right back. And again, we could do that today if we start these conversations. Maybe this is where it restarts. I passed this by my granny Maisie, and she had a really good smile for that. And she looked really happy, because what's holding us back? What?
Yeah, on that note, the only reason why it was never reestablished was because we had lost so many people right after those epidemics that affected our population. We were down to 140 people altogether, including Chinoxula. And that was after the amalgamation between Chinoxula and Haisla people. So we're I believe we're beyond 2,000 now. And that's only of, Canadian government registry lists. That's not based on people who actually come directly from our bloodline and are truly related to us. So I think that's definitely a conversation to have with more elders while they're still here, to bring those clans back. Because another thing that I like to talk about or mention is that there's so many newly created names that unintentionally displace our people in the feast hall in their seats. And we need to accommodate and make room for those new names and those new people with those new names. So I think expanding and bringing back those old clans might be the answer and the key to trying to, bring everyone together, but also to expand on our own clan system. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Haisla traditional names, they belong to a particular clan. And when given a name, one becomes a member of that clan. A clan is to be considered as family, a support group, and an obligation. Feasts and other ceremonies around events such as birth, marriage, and death were at one time strictly clan activities. It is important to know one's name and to display symbols of clan proudly on regalia. So the one thing I really like to point out is, it's a common misconception, especially now, that when someone has a name and they pass on, that name belongs to that family. It's actually, it really doesn't. It truly doesn't. It belongs to a clan. And those names are always supposed to go back to that clan. Or there's supposed to be decisions made around who that name will be passed down to. And we're a matrilineal society, so it always follows the mother's bloodline. And typically names are passed down to the eldest sister's son, or child, mostly son, because it's the male names that are the inheritable names mostly and passed down, unless it's a high-ranking name. That's how names are traditionally passed down. Did you want to
Okay,
add,
thank you.
Justin? Oh,
Yeah, I have questions again, sorry.
Okay.
Do you know if we ever had something called like a name box where all the names were kept? I know Nancy has talked to other communities where they have, each clan has a box of names where they keep their name there to keep them safe. Like names that aren't being held, I guess. But she
I've
also,
personally just heard of one, but sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because she was thinking it would be good if we tried to reignite that one again to try to make sure names aren't being gifted improperly, because sometimes names are being taken and placed on someone else, even though somebody already carries that name.
Yeah, that would be good to establish something like that. Either again, I haven't heard of a name box in our history, but mind you, we lost so much that's
Mhm.
right now untraceable to that extent.
I wonder if
Um,
the name box basically had drawings indicating certain names, because I can't see them actually writing down until contact happened. I wonder if it's a newer thing. And when when smallpox and the influenzas and all the other stuff came around, they were scrambling to put names on anybody. And Teresa says it the best. They were standing outside the feast hall, basically enticing anyone to come in because we were losing people so rapidly and they wanted these names to go on. What?
Also, the biggest thing that affected us passing names down properly too, or in a feast hall, was the potlatch feasting ban. So that was during that time frame too. So people were still very secretive or doing it in hiding and trying to conceal when they were passing on names. So I've heard stories and seen documented histories of people who like women who wore men's names or had multiple names placed on them to hold those names because there was not enough people to pass those names on to. And then also transfer of names between clans. That's where a lot of that had taken place. So names that were actually belonging to the Raven clan, one were to the Beaver clan, and things like that. So that would be a really good thing to reestablish or to establish for our community for sure, is having maybe name boxes for each clan, because right now I think we depend largely on women in our clans to keep their own track of names. I know that for almost every single clan, there's a lady in that clan or multiple ladies in those clans who have their own journals or books with the names written down. But you look at how many people we've lost over the last how many years, and you got to wonder who's doing that for everyone now. I personally have started taking down notes in my phone to try and capture the names that are being placed on people now, and just to keep that ongoing record. But yeah, that's a good idea.
When I worked at the Elder Center, I was aware of Sarah Shaw having a book with just about everybody's name in it. And Yeah, so it has to be around somewhere, like all of those names.
It would be amazing if we could have a big map, kind of like a family tree, but because it seems like such a vast thing, all these names and where they came from, and then also as a way to kind of because there's so much confusion at times, it sounded, of names going in all these different places, just scrambling, and then the ban. And so it's kind of like as a way of recovery is to like spread them all out and like, okay, who's what, where, and make all the connections and try to gather as much information as we can.
I think when if they do another rapid word collection, Angie, I would suggest that you guys put up a thing just to record people's names and have a big sign. And when they come in, maybe just have someone greet them and take their name down. That way we'd be able to record everyone's name who came through that door.
Cassidy has actually tried to do that at a feast and has faced a bit of resistance. People are saying, oh, it's a family name. We don't tell other people our names. Things like that it's a little frustrating.
Maybe that has to do with the secrecy of it still and holding on to a lot of those things. When we had the potlatch bans and stuff, the residential schools right into the day schools, not speaking your language and stuff really holds in our DNA, hey? And when we start breaking that, like there's a lot of people saying like I shouldn't share stories. Well, I was trained to tell these stories, so that actually gives me the right to share a lot of these stories. And the stories I share are off the top of my head. And if we're not doing this stuff, my worry is that it'll go to sleep. And later on, I want to sing a Kitlope song that I found in the archives. And I believe I'm still the only one to sing this song. And breathing life back into what we once had is the reason that I opted to start doing this again, and making sure that everybody, doesn't matter where you are, have a chance to learn. We have a guest here today that had reached out to us about some information, and we invited her to come in, and it's really impressive seeing people really wanting to know where they've come from, where their roots are. Then you imagine what a culture, what an ancestral connection you're going to make with our AMBs, our people of the past, or people that were here before us. And for me, that's what rediscovery did. And once I got my sense of belonging and really solidified who I was, again, this is why I'm doing this, to give everybody that opportunity. I look at life as a constant rediscovery, because ever since I was a child, my Baba and Kamano, we would get so many ancestral teachings, and he never went to residential school. So he got to see the generations before that were untouched, and he had a lot of really great teachings. And myself, Teresa, and Megan always say the worst thing to happen is when we lose an elder, we're closing the book of an encyclopedia that we can never open again. So it's really important to connect with our elders and talk as much. And myself, I have a book I use all the time, and I'm always writing things down for myself. Like I've seen this presentation before, and right now it's really absorbing. When I was in a different work situation, it was more about presenting and doing it for work. Now that we're doing it for ourselves and for the people, it's really coming in. And I was taking pictures, making sure what I could put on my regalia. Those are things that I'm still learning too. I know a heck of a lot, but we were blessed to be around a really great group of people for a little while in the job positions that we were, and we're still doing this work for free for our people now. So it's really, really important to share. And as that's what we're supposed to be doing, is sharing once again. So, wow.
So this is our hierarchy chart, I guess you could say, or lineage that shows the highest ranking Beaver Clan Hatemas. We would call this person Hatemas Hake, who's the big chief, Tasi. Tasi is the only one that I understand would have an aloof, a second person or a spokesperson. That name that is the representative of that spokesperson is Gupsimnag. Every Hatemas has a Mudi associated with them in that clan, and she serves as the advisor. She really is an advisor and the person that is always there to ground that Hatemas or to kind of set them right in our ways and to be a good reminder of doing things in a handsome, good way. And our Gitzel music is Adet. Then we have the Eagle Clan, Hatemas, Senached, Mudik Walchboon. The Raven Clan, Hatemas is Wakyas, Mudik Simdik. The Hulkinuch Blackfish Killer Whale Clan, Hatemas is Wisex, Mudik Melsikas. And the Salmon Miatnuch Clan, Hatemas is Widap Khan. And I still to this day can't find out the name of the Mudik, but I believe it's Cora Grant who currently holds that name. The English names or the people who currently hold these names, starting with Desi, is Sammy Robinson and Greg Smith. Mudik Adets is Verley Nelson. Hatemas Senached is Cyril Grant Jr. Mudik Wilkboon is Danella Maitland. Hatemas Wakyas, that name is resting right now, but the last person to hold that name was Alan Williams. Mudik Simdik is Winnie Williams. Hatemas Wisex is Harvey Grant. Mudik Melksikas is Annie Woods. Hatemas Widap Khan is Floyd Grant. And the Mudik of the Miatnuch clan, I believe, is Cora Grant. So the potlatch feasting ban that I spoke of, that went from 1883 to 1951. It lasted about 68 years. It's a bit longer now, been probably around 75 years since the ban was lifted. Potlatching and feasting are still practiced today, thankfully, but a lot has changed over time. The facilities that we have our feast in are no longer in smokehouses or big houses. The seating arrangements have changed drastically. The types of gifts given have changed, and the types of food served and how they are served have also changed. The feasts that we host today are called Yohwa. The feast hall is called a Yohwatsi. An invitational name is Yohwatlayu. And going to invite door to door is Yohwatla. So that's still, all of those things still take place. Wigwistalas is the way things happen or the ways of doing things. And I feel like it encapsulates more genuinely our ways of being and tradition. Nuyem is also used as a way to reflect our ways of doing things and ways of being. But I find that Wigwistalas is actually a more accurate depiction or description of the way things happen in our traditions and culture. But it was feasting was how we celebrated and honored life events such as birth, naming events at 1 year, adult coming of age, naming, marriage, and death. The types of feasts hosted have changed over time. Well, the one that I didn't mention was actually a Tukwa, which is a cleansing feast, or it was also known as a shaming feast. It was one that was done to say if something serious had happened to an individual, like an accident or something bad had happened to an individual, a Tukwa feast was held to cleanse that person or rid that person of the shame that they would carry from that event. And it was just to show that their clan family was able to look after that person and that they no longer needed to take pity on them or to pity them in such a way. So it would rid them of that energy. And those were done almost immediately after the incident had happened. An example that I was given, because I had asked my late grandmother Frida about the tukwa and a cleansing, she had said that, well, I had inquiries about like a cold water cleansing. And she said, oh, I've never really known of women to do it. She said, the only type of tukwa cleansing I've ever witnessed was for my grandmother, her grandmother Matilda Maitland. And she had said what had happened was that she was at a feast and a chair had broken. And immediately after that chair had broken under her, her clan members, and because she was a well-respected lady, her clan members got up right away immediately and invited everyone that was there and said, you're invited to witness a tukwa for Matilda Maitland and what has happened here tonight. The feast is tomorrow. So they held a tukwa feast for her like the day after that had happened. So that's how quickly they had done and pulled it together to show people that they didn't want anyone to take pity on her in such a way, and that they wanted to honor her and cleanse her of that experience. So gifts over time have evolved just as our world and our needs have evolved as Haisla. The types of yanam gifts that were given long ago were tlati, looking grease when it was in abundance, huistin, copper shields, kwodzi, bent wood box, usually with tlati, carved items such as spoons, dishes, masks, songs and dances, regalia, which was depending on the host, because long ago only Haitmas chiefs wore regalia and headdresses. Gifts that are more common nowadays or have kind of been around over time were bowls, fabrics at one point were given by the yard. They would buy bolts of fabric, and I've heard from multiple elderly ladies that the fabrics were given out by the arm length. Women would stand there and measure out by the arm length, and they would rip off fabric for the women to make clothes and stuff.
And the white was the most prizeful because that was a new color basically being brought in, and that's why they really prized the white.
Yeah, that's cool to know. Blankets, provisions like flour and sugar, fruit, apples, oranges, towels, socks. I personally wouldn't mind getting some of these gifts still to this day. Fabric, flour, and sugar with how things are rising up in price. The image here is a grease bowl. You could see it's cedar that's pretty saturated from oil. So I believe it was one of the bowls that was used to gift grease, because that was a common gift for Haitmas hosting, was looking grease. But in order to accept the grease, they would often have to drink the grease in front of their audience or in front of their guests as I guess by taking it in appreciation and showing that they appreciated the gift. They would have to drink it right then and there, or their spokesperson would have to take a drink and drink it, and then followed by the Haitmas.
And they had a big spoon specifically for that, hey?
Yeah, they had chief spoons specifically for that. It was said to have been able to fit a 1-year-old infant with how big those bowls were. So can you imagine drinking that much grease in one gulp?
I wonder if it would stimulate an effect in your body, because you know when you eat glucans and stuff, it's so fatty it makes you tired. I can't imagine drinking that much and not having some sort of effect.
We had a bigger tolerance for it back then, though, too. Our bodies were so accustomed to it, and I imagine we were probably eating that much or consuming that much on a regular basis anyway for other things. This was a seating plan that I had come across in one of the anthropological studies that was in our archives. This is through Ronald Olson's interviews that he had done with some of our people. And I found it really interesting because it kind of gave a glimpse to what our seating arrangements would have looked like if we still had our feasts in a big house. And this one was if the area was, or if the feast was hosted by the Blackfish clan. So the thing I found really interesting about this is that at the very back of, this is the back of the big house here. Here's the entrance. But at the very back, you see there's 3 seats here and 3 Haitmas that would be seated at the back. And that's Sarched of the Eagle clan, Tassi of the Beaver clan, and Legeg of the Beaver clan. These names still exist today. And when you look at our head table now, you see how many other people have joined them at this table. But initially and long ago, these were the 3 that sat at the very back. And there was another one here that sat at the very, very back. I believe the name was Leguitama. And then off to the sides and sitting along with their respective clans was Wakias, Amdama. Those are of the Beaver and the Raven clan. And then over to the right, there's Dukhalaha of the Eagle clan, Tsaquikas of the Eagle clan, and Gapskalodi of the Eagle clan. So you can see in the different areas where all the different clans would sit. There's also areas for quote unquote commoners, nobles, and lesser nobles, and where they were allowed to sit, they would sit closest to the front. Commoners would sit a little closer to the front. Then you'd have the Raven clan, the Crow clan, the Beaver clan towards the back. And then the Eagle clan would have the corner. And again, this is only if this was the Blackfish clan hosting a feast. And the reason why our Haitmas were located at the back was because if there was ever a raid or anyone trying to come in, you know, start a war with our people while they're in a feast, they would be at the very back to be given time to prepare themselves for battle and be protected, and have all the other people at the front have them fight first, basically. This is an Eagle chief seat. I've shared this photo online before, and I've had people say that it's actually connected to someone's name. I don't know if it's a person of the Eagle clan really, or Eagle clan chief. I'll have to look back on that, but these are the kind of seats that they would have in the big house, where they'd be sitting right along on these rafter areas. And there would be one, I would think, typically for every clan or every Haitmas. Then again, the Eagle chief mask. Another grease box. You can see how saturated it is with oil. And this is the chief spoon that we were talking about. This is where they would have and serve the Ulican grease that was gifted to the Haitmas. So the Uluk, or the spokesperson, they would often receive tokens before the Haitmas to deem it safe for the Haitmas to consume. And about 2 or 3 gallons of lati were given in this dish called the dakhla. And the spokesperson was said to have had finished it all in one swallow. So the Uluk spokesperson was sometimes a messenger for his Haitmas. He would be responsible for inviting other clans and sometimes other villages to a feast, and would be called upon to retell his family history and rights to the title. So he would be the one to tell the Haitmas's rights to the name. And it was typically done to avoid future dispute of title inheritance and rights to dances, names, and crests. Something I think that we should totally reestablish in our feast of today, especially now, so that people can remember. But once all speeches are made, gifts are handed out. Each gift given depends largely on the recipient's social ranking and feast name. Outright refusal to accept an invitation to a feast is regarded as a sign of disrespect. It is also considered disrespectful to the host to refuse a gift or to make poor comment on what you are gifted. Currently, the only event that is still honored with a feast is the passing on of a traditional name, and this feast is called a yokba. This only occurs when a predecessor passes on. It is their inheritor's responsibility to place a headstone at their namesake's gravesite and to honor them by settling their name. Payments are handed out to gravediggers and prominent supporters, and once the name is placed on the host/inheritor, gifts are handed out by the clan ladies. So social ranking for Haisla were as follows. Excuse the language, but this is the way they were referred to. There was noble, commoners, and then slaves. Intermarriage between social classes were said to have never taken place, especially with a noble and a commoner. The noble person would stand to lose their status and social ranking if they married. The size of each feast varied and depended largely on the social status of the individual guest of honor/host. All clans were invited to feasts hosted by high-ranking heimas. Whoever was in the same clan of the host would be called upon to assist in the celebration. And this is still relevant today, and the way we're called upon to come together to host and to help our clans. So I'm going to stop my screen share here because I wanted to share some notes or excerpts from a paper that I had wrote about this. And I was just speaking to, let's see. I was talking about how new names have been created for new members, and there's unintentional displacement of others assigned seating arrangements, and how a big house would allow us to accommodate more people and to seat all of our Guklut. So, but if we were to go back to our old ways, well, that would mean that we would be excluding our children, which I don't believe would work in this day and age. Our children play a huge part in preserving our language and culture. So a solution that I've always tried to present to people think about is having or hosting a feasting class where children are moved to a separate room during a feast to be taught inclusively about our feasting ways. And as we think about what feasting could look like, to remember that we Haisla come from various backgrounds and families that had come from different places. It's well depicted in our locational origin story, Pantli Kulas. So when looking for resolution on how to bring back lost ways, I don't think we could afford to shy away from the concept of looking to our neighbors or origin nations for glimpses of what our feasting could look like or what it could look like in future. Some elders I've spoken to said that we used to buy and use real dishes at our feasts until it became a problem where, personal items were going missing. But if we were to reintroduce this practice, I believe we could also use it as a coming of age process for our young people to be welcomed into the feast hall. And it would also minimize landfill pollution by eliminating our use of disposable products in the feast hall. I believe that we can collectively move forward using our inherent rights, power and title through continuity of our culture and language and feasting practices. And it is our responsibility to nurture all of it. A couple more notes I wanted to make or mention was these were notes that I didn't include in my presentation, but there's almost no boasting done by the host chief at feasts. And if any, it was only when gifts were being handed out. And there was a song that used to be sung when the gifts were being handed out. And the English translation is, I'm going to invite you, I'm going to invite you, I'm going to give a feast, I'm going to give a potlatch, and again and again and again. So I think it'd be really cool to try and figure out how the lyrics actually work out too in our language. But yeah, I believe that's about it on what I have to share. I still am always looking for more information about our feasts and the types of feasts that we would have. But yeah,
some really good information for you. When I worked at the Elder Center, I had access to my Baba John's notes, and he had a lot of diagrams like you and the purpose of them being there. So the big chiefs were always kind of guarded by the rest of everybody. And then if anyone they had one big chief in the back, if I'm correct, and that was, I'm not too sure if he was really a big chief or kind of a decoy to the biggest chief, so that if they were raided, that they never got the biggest chiefs. And then, to my understanding, in the old ways, you would have the arrival day feast that would include the grease drinking, getting everyone together, and just having lots of food. The day two would have been all the dances that attach to the families that have a whole day of dances, and they would feast. And then on day three, they would do the naming.
yeah, they would host them all. Like if we had outsiders come in, they would host them all at different houses, and they'd have those smaller events taking place. And then on the final day, that's when they would bring everyone together for the passing on of the name.
Yeah, and with the certain dances, when you're going to a feast, when you're witnessing those dances belong to certain families, then all the people that are in there are just there to witness. So what you're witnessing is someone getting snooted. And then when you go back to those other communities or wherever they go, that's the story that they're telling. And that's why you get the gifts to be able to witness this and tell the story to all of your family. So everyone knows who holds that name. So thank you, Teresa. That was amazing. I was taking pictures, writing things down. I don't know how I when we were doing this prior, like we're so rushed and worried about the community, worried about presenting properly, and now that it's just us doing it for us, I feel that I'm absorbing a lot more, and I learned a lot from that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the time and space. Again, thanks to Paul Phoenix for hosting us on your Zoom and sharing the space with us, and creating such a safe space for us to do this. It's been really nice, and I'm always happy to share what I've learned and pass it down. But well, thank you.
So I think it's appropriate time I do the Kitlow Canal song. It's when someone got snooted, all the Kitlow chiefs would sing this song. After that, I know we're going on to 9 o'clock. We usually do it for 2 hours, but if everyone's up for it, I would still like to keep going. Unless everyone's tired, we could save it till next time. It's up to you guys. Does anyone have anything to do? No? Then we should keep going. Eh?
Yeah, we could watch.
All right. So I'll sing the song. I found this one in archives, which was really cool because Gordon Robertson recorded them. Then this one I just couldn't get. It was like I couldn't get the drum beat. I couldn't get anything to match up. And then I listened really, really carefully, and I heard a rattle in the background. I was like, that's why I could never get the drum beat for it. So in the document I read, this was a song sung to him by his uncles when they were putting a name on him. His uncles were Gupskoleth and Wached. So when I saw that in the archives, I was like, wow, this is almost like spiritually meant for me. Ayala, yo, ala, yo. Ayala, yo. Ayala, yo, ayala, yo, ayala, yo, yana, ayala, kani, silakin, akin, kaito, then the winter. Dude, ayala, yo, ayala, yo, ayala, yo, yana, ayala, samehan, what westin, yana, La la. In the winter, yo. Hayala, yo, hayala, yo, hayala, yo, yana, hayala, oi. I really love that song, and that one was extra difficult. It probably took me, I think it was, I don't know, it was about a year. It was about a year. And I kept on asking Ab, and he taught me about acoustic projection. When the elders get a little bit older, what's harder to hear is because their lungs can't give out the capacity, especially for singing. So yeah, it took me a year of listening, writing down, going back to Ab, getting him to help me out. And he was able to take specific sounds because he understands the sound combinations a lot better than I do, and I was able to breathe life back into what we once had. And come my day, that's what I want to be able to bring back. Like, would really like to start teaching people this again. So I think we could take a break, maybe another 10-minute break, and we'll come back. And I would like to talk about death protocols next in our nation. And I'm only going to speak upon what I witnessed, what I was taught. Each family have different Nuyems. So we all carry different teachings, and a platform like this brings us all together to have a broader thing. So even myself and my sister, we might have different teachings, and it might be for a reason. It was to hold knowledge. Myself and Teresa, we probably have a lot of different teachings, and so on and so forth. So as we start going, I'd really like a lot of questions, and maybe what you were taught, even if you just put your hand up and we could break and really have a good discussion around it, because there's so many protocols that are being not taught anymore, let's say, maybe not spoken about, or maybe people just don't have the opportunity to witness these anymore and get the teachings to it, because it was a very important transition in our lives. So well, we'll take a break and come back at 5 after. Okay, well, I'm going to start by a story. It's something that's always connected myself and Teresa ever since we were little kids, was our grandparents living up on a hill. They're best friends, and they had a house built up on the hill together. So when you go down the bay, you'll see 2 sets of stairs. You'll see the first set of stairs, and as you drive further down the bay, you'll see another set of stairs go way up. We were out on the prawn boat. These are some really good core memories of surrounding death. We were heading out for the day, and my Baba got a call that Teresa's Baba had passed away. And my Baba turned around right away. I was like, "Where are you going, Baba?" We're going to that house. And I thought when we got there, because we were all geared up fishing, we would take all our slickers off, we would get up, make ourselves look appropriate. And he said, "No, we're going right away." So one of the important things was appearing right away to show up and support that family. When that family passes away, the reason we're feeding them is because they're spiritually weak, and since the portal is open for their family, it's us that are keeping their spirit strong. And the symbolization of feeding them is what's keeping them alive and keeping them going. The compassion and love that goes into that food, you see it come out in them when they're eating. We pray for them because they can't pray for themselves and protect them at that time. So when somebody is in mourning, their direct family, it's up to everybody else to give them prayers to protect them. In our territory, we know typically when the portal is open, the plane gets open, and death comes in the 3s. And that's also associated with Nolach, Nolach, Nolach. There's a process that goes on there's usually a spokesperson. I think it's Bobby in our nation. She goes and helps out all the grieving families still. And as people cry, there's somebody that's supposed to be collecting all of the tissues or the materials used to collect all of those tears in the mourning stage. Somebody actually goes through with tissues and rubs all the objects in the house, and that's preparing for the ancestral burn. You would wet cloth and you would cut a little piece off. You would wet the cloth and you would rub all of the objects that you want to send to the other side. And that's what symbolizes that, is that piece of cloth. So my gran told me 3 days was the goal, because you wouldn't want the body to bloat after that. And this was before embalming, before we had the option of bringing our dead to the, I guess, the coroners now. They said if you didn't, sometimes it would explode, she said. And but it's not good. So after that, you would constantly feed the families. I've heard things, yes, you're supposed to stay quiet unless it's the house that's involved. You're allowed making noise within that house. I've heard of older elders talking about playing lahal or bone game and gambling, and it was to keep the spirits up within that house. When the body was brought into that house, there's somebody there to watch the body all the time. Nobody leaves the body alone, and it's ancestral protocols to protect us from, let's say, the dark arts. There, for every good medicine man, there's probably a bad medicine man, and they practice a different vibration, lesser vibration than what the good medicine men do. So when people were viewing the body, there was always a close eye that no one was putting a pouch in or some sort of material object that we would take as that lowercase medicine. As the days went on, they started gathering all the stuff for the burn. And when we do our burn in our family, and I'm speaking for my family on this because we probably all have different protocols, I was taught that we don't start the fire till about 3. All day we're prepping, we're getting food together. And every day that the body is in wake, we would burn for our family. We have an open portal. We would start the fire at 3 o'clock, get it rolling, making sure there's a big, huge layer of charcoal and embers, just really, really hot. So we'd be able to burn up anything that you put in there. The first thing that you would want to burn is the clothes. So when they pass away, what I was told from my grandparents is that they go to the other plane. They're there, you just can't see them. The reason that we close our windows and stuff is because we're beacons of light. Each one of us, when we're talking about cleansing, in our last episode, or was it, we talked about cleansing at some point, but it's because your light gets a little tarnished and you have to go into the cold water cleanses to make you shine again and take that off. When ghosts are going around, they see that shine and they think that you could help them to the afterlife. So they're always trying to peek in your windows. I was asked my Baba, how come you never cry? How come you never cry? Because I knew how much these people had meant to him. And he said, we're not really supposed to. They had mourners for that, and the mourners were specifically hired. And I think my granny Mukhakbi was a hired mourner. They would pay her to go there and induce crying in everyone at a certain point to be able to get them over their, not over their mourning stage, but stimulate it to, I believe it's so they don't really go into shock. You could actually die from losing a loved one. It really hurts your heartstrings and it'll induce death in you. So I believe that's what those mourners were for, was to take care of your soul at that point of when you're in shock. I believe we all know what it feels like to lose someone. When you're in that stage, you're spiritually weak. So the mourners would come in and induce crying in everyone. We would burn the clothes. So right away, when they get to the spirit world, they would have their clothes, and that would still be at 4 o'clock. We light our fire. In my family, we open portals, and this is really important because a lot of people might not be taught this. And if you open a portal, you have to close that portal. So yeah, anyone could burn and put it right in the fire and it can go over. But the reason of the water sealing off, and I'll explain this in a minute, is because hands could go in and just rip that. There's so many hungry spirits around. And what my Baba said, the worst thing in the afterlife is to be forgot. So when you're eating at home and you drop something, you're supposed to take a note of that because it's somebody. And I just made my boy popcorn, and the past 2 days, one piece of popcorn has fallen out, and I could picture my grand's hand going in and grabbing one piece, eh? So I know it's Edith Paul that wants some popcorn. So I'll keep a mental note of that, and the next time I'm able to burn, that's what I'll do. So we light our fire at 4 o'clock. Once the fire is ready, we have a big bucket of water and we walk around it clockwise. You can't let the stream break. It has to be a constant flow, and you go around it 3 times. And that's because you're creating a portal of death. Death comes in the threes. So you're sealing it off. When you're burning, you burn the clothes and stuff first, you reload the fire, and then they'll feast after that. So they have to be dressed first. They'll take the first initial tiers and send those over, send all the little cotton or whatever fabric they're using, and that they wipe down all the objects. For instance, let's say this wasn't my place, but I knew this person really wanted their cedar hat. Well, that cedar hat can go to a family member as a really good sentimental, but you take the essence of that cedar hat, and that's what's going over of the fire. So you don't have to burn direct objects like that all the time, unless that person, let's say someone had a dream and they said, I had a dream, and that person who just passed really wants that cedar hat, like they want it on the other side. So that's something that you would burn, because in our Nuyem, every generation is someone who remembers, someone who sees, and someone who brings stuff back, like and the storytellers. So there's really gifted people that are in all of our bloodlines that see things. For instance, I have family members that used to see physical ghosts. We have prophetic dreams, and some of those prophetic dreams are things that people want. They might come and tell you, I want an apple. My late Auntie Lorna, she wanted tomatoes, and there was 2 deaths that went by, and every time our family kept dropping tomatoes. So until those tomatoes went over in our family, they would just keep dropping, because we think of someone's like that giving you a hint, knocking those off. So then after that food, after the clothes and stuff goes, all the sentimentals for the first round of burning, you bring out, and this is what we're prepping all day, is all the food, all their favorite stuff. And not even just for that individual, the portal is open for whoever we call. The reason that we put that water down is because now this is your fire, you have control over it. Anything you put in this fire, only the people you call can pass that threshold. So it's very important that you call by name. If you were to call, this is for Baba, how many Babas are around? How many Babas are still being remembered and being burned? Each family typically had a burn pit in their backyard that they would send stuff over. And this goes for first catches as well. I've seen my Baba, when we made the first batch of Glati, he would actually take the whole thing and we'd go to the fire. He would set that, show us how to create the fire, and then he would burn the entire first batch, and it would go way up because of the oolican grease. It's really flammable. And that's when I started questioning him at a really, really young age. And I didn't even know what kind of training we're going through, myself and all of his grandchildren, really, whoever wanted it, whoever respected all of this information. So as you put out the food, we use cedar planks in ours to send it over like a plate, and it burns a lot quicker. In the modern days, they use modern utensils like cups, and they can't be microwave proof. They have to be basically like good porcelain, not the newer stuff. It won't crack. And this is an important part. The cedar will go over and it carries the food with it as it burns. And when the cedar falls and it goes in, we know that that food has been taken and it's done. So these days they'll put plates on. I know going to the free store a lot, we would grab a whole bunch of plates all the time when we saw good burning plates. Because as the generations are going on, the plates are getting stronger and stronger and they won't crack. When you put the food down on the plate, the same thing will happen. It'll just be like smash and it'll crack. And you know, it's really interesting because when you put their favorite stuff down there, those are typically the ones to go right away, like almost right away. And it's visual evidence for your soul to confirm all of your teachings. After that, you'll bring out the drinks and the snacks, their favorite treats. For instance, my Baba really liked that coconut chocolate bar. So we'd bring that out. He loved peanut butter toast. We'd bring peanut butter toast and coffee. And not just for him, we would call Baba John, we would call anyone who has passed on, and they're sharing these meals. Some people say that you burn for the one person so that they have enough food to take to the other side. And everyone has a lot of different teachings behind this, specifically to their family, I think, and who their teachers were. So when you take that, you take all their snacks and stuff, and then after that, I would pull out the cigarettes for my Baba, cards, all the games that they used to play on the boat, and you would send those things over, and you would have to wait there for a long time. No one was to leave the fire until it closed. After all the food has been burnt for that day, you take your water again and you go it around 3 times. And that seals off the portal. If you don't do that, you have an open portal to death in your backyard, and it attracts things. And as things aren't unsettled, you're probably attracting a negative vibration, because it's really, really sacred, these practices. You could do a lot of harm without knowing the proper protocols, as my Baba said. So another thing too is, if they really wanted a shirt, you didn't have to burn it. You'd be able to take a big stick to be far away from the fire. You'd put the shirt on like that, and you would go over, and you have to go counterclockwise because it's the death world. So you're not using like the water portal, you're not using that one, and that one's clockwise. Anything you smoke has to go like that, symbolizing it's in the waking world, the underworld, and they would grab that and take it over. Sometimes you see people when they're doing that, typically a stick is normal and you could actually burn it. At our fires, we do not let anybody under 16 come around because they're really close. They're really fresh from coming from that world and being born. So unless you're a Daduksiwith of some sort, a seer or a spiritual person. Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
Well, I just wanted to add to that, shoes are also something that you don't burn. It might be different for every family, but I remember hearing the reason why was because there was this one lady who was a shoe lover, and she had a big collection of shoes. And when they tried to burn all her shoes for her, they all warped up, and all of the rubber of the soles of the shoe, they curled at the toes. So when she received them, when she went to somebody in somebody's dream and said that all her shoes were ruined. And so that was something that was, I guess, noted by a lot of people, that shoes are something you would just put over the smoke, like you mentioned.
Yeah, put over the smoke. And the reason you don't have anyone under 16 as well attending that, because they're so close to coming back to this world. We call our children Baba, or I'm assuming the females would be Mama'o. Every time I'd come up to my Baba Cecil, that he'd say, I'd be like, "Hi, Baba." He'd be like, "Hi, Baba." And I never did ask him, but when he passed, there was an article wrote about him, and we said we greet our children as our grandparents because it's them that are coming back, and it's our turn to take care of them. So when you close that fire portal and the burning for that stage is done, you have to have someone to sit there, because this is when the old teachings come in. Just like the body, there could be somebody there just waiting to put something into your fire, cursing your bloodline, basically. So you would never leave a fire unattended. And we still do this one today in our family. After that, you have a lot of different protocols that you kind of follow. Like one I said was the windows. You cover your mirrors, and that has to be a new kind of thing, because I don't believe we had mirrors, but we look at mirrors just like a fire, a portal. When mirrors got introduced to our territory, we wouldn't let babies look into it, because whatever was looking through that mirror at you, we've all felt going by a mirror and felt vibration at some point, and that's what they felt back then. So they wouldn't, they would cover that all the time. And I skipped something that was important. The reason we don't have children under 16 at the fire as well, because when you're smoking things and things are going into the smoke, if a child goes around the fire, it's then that elder or whoever had passed away that was connected to that loved one that they love so much, they could hug them. And on accident, they pull a piece of their soul away. So the old medicine men would have to, if that ever happened, you would have to take them to the old medicine men, and they have the soul catchers on their belt. And that's where they would realign the people's soul. And if the soul got hugged and got taken to the afterworld, is just a matter of time before the rest of the body goes. So bad luck is going to happen and follow. And that's why we don't have people under 16 at our fires, unless they're seers already. They could already see, they understand, and they're taught. They could sit there without being told to sit there and watch. I myself and my sister Coralie were always summoned to Baba John's, and we'd have to sit there and just watch, and we didn't even know why. Go ahead, Angie.
Sorry, I'm listening and beating at the same time, so I've got to put my scissors away. Is that the same, because you say no one under 16, is that the same for, is it Tomi? For people who go into the house and sit at nighttime with the bodies? You don't want children doing that as well? Is that the same idea
Yeah,
why you don't want that? Okay.
no, you wouldn't want them around. Basically, if they're seers, then they're around, and their families will know if they're seers. There's big indications. They'll watch things, they'll say hi to people that aren't there, they'll hold conversations with that, and then they'll protect you because they could feel your vibration that you're scared. So they'll always tell you, I was talking to nobody, I wasn't talking to anybody, unless when they feel that you're ready, they'll start revealing that to you. In our family, we're very nurtured in that aspect, that we just knew that we knew the spirit world. My family was very, very in depth to it, and I'm grateful to Dan Paul. And what was really interesting is this might be just our Kitlope way of doing it. My grandma differed on a lot of her teachings, and they were both adamant, and I took both of them in because I see a big value in both of them. But my grandfather said, since we're the people of the rock, a lot of our people are seers, a lot of our people have natural gifts, and I think it comes from the water that they drink out there. There's such high quartz content out there, and when you're drinking those minerals into your body, you're always charging yourself. And then when you're cold water cleansing, you're coming more and more powerful, the brighter the light. So my Baba said that the Kitlo people had the power to open up portals when the death wasn't around, and my grandma didn't believe in that whatsoever. And then she would contradict me right in front of my Baba. My Baba would kind of just smile, and I'd listen and take both of them in. Do you have your hand up for another question, Angie? So another.
Sorry, no, I'm just not techie. I forgot to put.
Okay. Another teaching behind the death protocols is after nighttime, especially when, even in general, we're never supposed to open the door to knocks on the door. This is how bad spirits were able to get in. They'd knock on your door and you'd open it up. when that happened when I was younger, my Baba would look out and always tell us never to open that door. And this goes for hitchhikers too. At nighttime, you're not supposed to pick up hitchhikers. My mom had one incident of picking up a hitchhiker, and she always told me never to do that. She never really told me the whole story ever, but another one, when the portals open, these other spirits can come around and attach. So when you're crying, and this is why you're supposed to cry around the body, you weren't supposed to go home and continue to mourn all the time. Like I know people were sad and stuff, but the reason behind it is because if that person, and you didn't follow protocol, you didn't close your windows through the death, that person sitting there watching you cry. And as you say, I don't know how I'm going to go on without you. I don't know how I'm going to do this. They choose not to go to the other side. And if you're not continuously burning for them, what happens when all of us get hungry? We get really, really angry, and these spirits get angry. And this is why the morning stages were so, so important for that, because they induced all of this crying out so you didn't have to bring it home. I heard some people really see people peeking in or shadows outside, and they're trying to get you to look out. The spirit world's really tricky. To my understanding, when you're seeing different colors, the red orbs around, if you're not using your medicine in your house all the time, keeping your house clean, if there's a fight in your house and you do not wash the walls in some sort of way, even if it's boiling Oaksley and spraying the wall, that symbolizes washing that, and all that energy is not bouncing back off. Those mischief, when I told you those knocks happen and they try and entice you to open the door, only you could let them in. So if you look at other ancestral backgrounds, they look at it as vampires, energy vampires, and they suck your energy. They create fights within your place. Just hold on one second. Sorry, where was I?
You're speaking about inviting those energies into your place.
Oh yeah, so it's basically like a feeding ground, and they're going to follow you around. The importance of our smoke all the time was to separate ourselves from those negative energies. What they do is come in your house and they mimic voices. They'll create fights where there wasn't a fight. Let's say two lovers are there, one's walking away. We're in the plane of being awake and sleeping, and you hear them say something. You say, "What did you just say?" And that person's like, "Nothing, I swear." So what happens is that string gets plucked of love between you two, and these things sit there and they eat off that. So when you're using our medicines, we're actually severing the ties of that. When you put your hand over the smoke and you go like this, you wash it, and you're washing it away all the time. So typically around death, when you came out, they would smoke you off when you're doing this type of work, eh? Another thing too, while we're on death protocols, is near-death experiences are very, very important to take care of and settle. So for instance, if someone was in a car accident, if someone fell off a cliff and lived, their aunties are supposed to come in. And if it's a male, it's their uncles. And they take off the clothes. They bring you into a room, they take off the clothes, and they burn them right away. And then they smoke you off to separate you from that. And that's basically regrounding you and separating you from the incident. Maybe you were supposed to die there, but your guardian angels had grabbed you and made sure that you were safe. And that disrupts the laws of karma. So when the laws of karma are disrupted, like let's say that accident, you're really lucky, you don't know how, that's your AM beef coming to keep you safe. Your aunties would come in and sever the ties with death by burning those clothes and smoking you off so that death isn't following you around all the time. Typically, you take black ash and put it on your face like that, and that masks you as one of their own already. When you using any sort of sacred ash on your face, you're putting on a mask, and they think that you're the dead. So that's how we hide from spirits that are sent and employed by people. like I said, myself, 100%, I believe in those dark arts. I've been called to take off a lot of stuff. The last one I did was taking off something very so I might as well just tell that story. We were down at work and someone called me into their room and they're like, Dustin, come here, come here. And they know me and they know what I've done. They know what my family provides for medicine. And she was like, do you believe in witches? And I was like, yes, I do. I was like, so speak open and freely with as much as information you can give me, and I could see how I could support you. She said, I found a bird outside my window. Not just a bird. This bird is cut into 3 pieces. There's one outside this window, one outside this window, and the back end is over here, right where I parked. Look, it's right at my car. And I felt it right away. I was like, ugh. And at that time, we were down by the courthouse. So then the other girls in there, they're all really scared to walk around. You hear people going around in there, I guess. I never heard it personally, but the stories that they told me, it was like they had ghosts around in there. So I kind of decided a way. I've never encountered a bird like that. You know that it was gross. We went and walked around the property. We happened to find another bird. And we were looking around. So at the end of the workday, I knew I had to go in there, and we went out and harvested all the medicine we need. So I sealed off the doors with cedar. I sealed off, we put cedar on the windows to make sure nothing could jump in the windows. The cedar is like a seal. It won't let anything cross over that. It's like salt for a witch, basically. They won't cross over that as well. So we had a whole bunch of Oaksley, and I've only, if anyone's burned Oaksley or Indian hellebore, they know how hard it is to get those roots to smolder and smoke. I've only ever seen it flame up once at that time in my life, because I wasn't encountering enough of this stuff. This is when you're leveling up as a spirit guide. People are going to come to you and you're going to start encountering a lot of different stuff that would probably challenge most people's belief systems. So we went inside, put up the cedar everywhere but the front door for a purpose. The janitor was there and he was of non-Aboriginal descent. So we had to ask him, you ever see any ghosts around in here? No. Well, we're actually taking care of ghosts. This is our ancestral protocol. So we turned the fire alarms off. And we smoked it from one end to the other. Every room, we opened up as much stuff as we can. And all of a sudden, that Oaksley set on fire. And we're all looking at each other like, holy cow, this is really, really deep stuff. So I didn't know how to deal with that bird and settle that energy, because when blood sacrifices happen like that, and that's what you're looking at here is a blood sacrifice and cutting up a body, I don't know what that would represent. I don't live in that world, but I know how to settle this energy. I sat there and I looked at Teresa and Coral, and I was like, I think I was reading in archives and how the old witches or the old bad medicine men, the witch doctors, they would take a piece to curse you. They would put it into a little bentwood box and they would put raw meat in there. That would help speed up the process of how fast you would decay in the curse they put on you. They would bring it to the edge of a graveyard and bury it there. Then they would come and tell you what they did. So that induced your mind to get sick, and it's connected to that box. And as fast as that box broke down the rotten meat, as fast as the curse started eating you and your soul, basically. So I was like, I read that. It's in the Compton documents, I believe. If not, someone will correct me. I've read a lot of documents. So I took a spin on this in a good way. And I said, I know what we need to do. And I said, we got to go find a tree. And they asked what kind. And I said, you ever see a stump that's cut down? It's a feeder stump and a new tree comes growing out of that. We have to drive around until we find one of those. So we drove around and it wasn't even that long. It was like we were attracted to this one place. So we went to that one place and I was like, right here. And Teresa and my sister Coralie came out with me. Basically, I needed their help on this because this was a lot of energy, a lot of sickness, basically. So we grabbed a shoebox and we filled this pieces of birds in the shoebox. We covered it in medicine. And then we found where that tree was with it's decaying already. We took some of the decay and we put it inside. We blessed it and we apologized to this bird for it being used in such a sick way. We dug down into the cedar stump that was just, it was breaking apart. We dug way down and we buried it and we sealed off our portal that we made and we put it back and we asked the roots of the cedar to take that and cleanse that bird and break the curse. So again, there's two types of medicine. And when you're looking at other ancestral backgrounds, let's look at Christianity. They'll always have demons and angels. We call them light beings, basically the light beings and the enemy spirits. And those will be the black orbs that you see around, or the enemy spirits. If you see red orbs around your place, they're the mischief ones. So those ones really get their food off taking your keys where you know you put them and putting them somewhere. And you're like, I swear I put them here. I swear I put them here. And if you don't practice our ways of getting rid of these things, sealing off your house, they can get in and basically break up marriages. They could turn best friends against each other. It's what I've witnessed in my time. And when I get called to these places, sometimes the day before I can't sleep, because once a person mentions I'm going to call Dustin or whatever their medicine person is, there's a spiritual link. And it's like, I know I'm going to go to war almost. I know I'm going to go resolve some energy. The only other time I've ever seen Oaksley burn was within my house here and out at the culture camp. Things were happening out at that culture camp, and then I asked, because we took it over after 3 years, and I said, has this land ever been blessed? No, no, no. I was like, that's the first thing we should have done, is bless all this land. So I sent the kids out in groups to go grab 4 white rocks, the crystal medicine, white quartz. And I basically pointed around our camp where we're going to bury this stuff. And as we started doing that, and I went around with my feathers and smoke, Megan Metz was there and she was like, look at that eagle, what's it carrying? All of a sudden it dropped down a piece of moss this big, and it had to have been about this thick around. Were you there too, Teresa? No? Were you there, Coral?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that thing came flying down. We went and grabbed it, and there was so much animal noise, they just went quiet. And everyone was asking, why are they quiet? Why are they quiet? But that one eagle flew over and dropped that. And I said, he knows we just made a nest, and that's his contribution to our nest. So you get these spirit guides that come around in animals, and we had an old relationship with these animals. Is there anything you want to touch on that I might have missed, Coralie? I probably missed a lot that my brain's just not picking up right now.
Nothing that I could think of. Um,
Is there any questions that we have at this point that might help bring clarity to this? To
oh,
anyone?
I remember one thing. Not all witch doctors are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's gonna be light, and I like to say that there's 3 types. There's the light energy workers, and then there's the people who meddle with the dark arts. And then there's the experimental and unguided and unmentored. So that's a kind of a scary place to be too, because you don't really know what you're um, opening up or doing when you're not mentored into ceremony and cleansing. But each to their own. But when you want a teacher, I was always taught to just say a prayer and tell Great Spirit and Mother Earth that you're ready for someone to mentor you, and they'll come along. And always go guided and with the truth and light. Sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
but I have another question here. Is there a fire you keep going for the whole time until the body is buried and a watcher for the fire? That's a good question. We let our fire burn out after that second time that we seal it off, that all the food and everything is done. Then we have someone sit there and watch it until there's no smoke and not one ember anymore. And then as the body lays in wake, the portal is open. Typically, the fire burners separate themselves from where the body is at rest, and they're doing all the work to ensure that the spirit is provided with everything they need as they go. So, for instance, when my grandfather had passed, he sent a message that he was really, really happy. And somebody, I can't remember who brought the message, but he had a boat that burnt down, and my grandfather was a fisherman, and that boat was waiting for him when he passed, and that's what his message to the family was. So for the watcher of the body, though, right till the day the body has been put back to what's supposed to be Mother Earth, will somebody sit there and watch that for that purpose? So thank you for that question. Go ahead, Teresa.
That's where clan ties really come in too, is the person that told me, because it's usually the person from the same clan of the person that's laying in state, person that passed away. So that was one tradition that was told to me, is that it's always someone of the same clan, and then usually an older person. And they're usually very skilled, or they have a know-how of how to do this. And long ago, it was meant for the person to go sit, and Tomik was actually meaning to smoke and keep spirits away type of thing. So they would have smoke in that room all the time. And I'd only ever witnessed that when my late Baba Russell passed away. And we were, all the grandchildren, all the kids, we were all kicked out of the room that my Baba's body was in the dining room hall, and his eldest friends came in of the same clan. Dustin's Baba, Dan, and Cecil, they came into the house right away, and I didn't realize that was what was going on. I thought they were just sharing a last smoke with him because they were poker buddies, they were boat buddies, and they smoked a lot. But they came in, and that's what they were doing. They were tomishing for him and sending him off in a good way, and they were cleansing the space that he had passed away in, because he passed away on Christmas Day in his own home. And another thing was, I think it's really neat that we still have those connections so strong too. And messages are usually sent to loved ones who have done burnings for their loved ones. And messages are usually sent to other people outside of their own family units, because I've noticed that if it comes from someone that's within that family, the messages may not be received as strongly as others. So they usually go to other people, or people that weren't there for the burning, to know exactly what had happened. And this happened to me recently. My mom, she did a food burning for my late uncle Dennis, and he had belongings that were sent by his daughter from Vancouver. And it had been how long since I'd had this stuff in my house. And I didn't open the box of his belongings. I just sent it down to my mom's, and she took care of it, because I'm carrying a baby and a new spirit. I didn't want to be around the fire, and felt that I shouldn't be around the fire, actually, because of carrying new life. But I didn't know what was in the box. I didn't know what contents were in the box. But I dreamt of my Bubio the other night, and he was healthiest I've ever seen him. He was clean shaven, and he had this really nice button-up dress shirt. And the moment I remembered my dream that morning, this was just the other morning, I called my mom and I told her, I said, oh, I dreamt of Bubio, and this is how he looked, and this is what he was wearing. And she said, oh, that must be his way of saying that he received everything that I sent for him, because she had burnt the belongings that came in the box for him. And she did a food offering as well too. And she was saying that, that was one of the shirts we sent for him, was a button-up shirt, a dress-up button-up shirt. And so in my dream, he was wearing that shirt. And so I just think it's really neat the way that you can receive messages like that. And that wasn't the first time I had a connection like that. Another family relative who had passed away, I dreamt of him taking me out on a boat, on an aluminum skiff or a speedboat, and he was taking me somewhere down channel. And he was really happy, but I wasn't close with his family member. That was what was strange to me, is I dreamt of this person and I wasn't really close with him. But after dreaming about him, I felt really compelled to call his sister and tell her about my dream. And I was explaining my dream to her, and she said, that's really interesting, and thank you for sharing that. Like, it makes me feel good that he's made it to where he's supposed to be and where he wants to be, and he's safe. And so when you have time, come by my house and come visit me. So I went to go visit her, and she said, normally I don't keep pictures of people who have passed on. I don't keep pictures of people up on my walls, period. She said, I just don't believe in it. But after her brother passed away, after her mom passed away, she put their pictures up on her wall. And she said, this is what really caught my attention in your dream, and felt that he was going to you to give me this sign. He said, look at the picture I have of him on my wall. And it was a picture of him in an aluminum speedboat, driving an aluminum speedboat. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. I wouldn't have had any idea that I had no idea that he had ever enjoyed boating, let alone been on the boat in that very specific vessel that showed up in my dream. So that message was meant to be passed on to him through me. And I felt that was really, it was too strong of a coincidence to just kind of let it go. But I find that when you have dreams like that of other people, that they're meant to be messages passed on to others. So yeah, good teachings and good reminders. The other thing I wanted to add to is that was basically what my grandma had said too. She had said that there's not really any strict rules around burning. Each family has their own protocols and things like that. She said, but you just have to make clear that who you're sending stuff to. You have to speak their name, and you have to say, this is for so and so. And be very clear about who you're sending it for. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a lot of the older generations and their different ways and the different ways they taught their families. It's really interesting. The groups of people that we have here are such light workers, and it's like we're all put in this timeline right now to teach in this pure way. Again, my past couple years have been really bad, but through everything I've been through, it hasn't broke me. It's made me a lot stronger, and I believe it's made me a lot stronger for this, so I could help not only my people. I have a unique set of skills and unique insights that a lot of people come and trust me to even speak about black magic. Another individual opened up their door to a bloody tissue, and as she walked down to her car, there was a raven with rocks all around it. And I asked her, don't move that. She's like, I already did. It's like, oh, didn't want to try scare her or anything, but there's all different levels of medicine that you could break just about anything that people put on you. If you ever go to medicine shops, really think about this. If they're selling anything to do with the black arts, well, like, yes, there's good and evil, you should have free will, but if you're making money off knowing you're selling stuff to people that are harming spirit walkers, anyone walking as a spirit, like we're all spirit walkers, then it's tainted. Anything you buy from that store is tainted. And who's to say that that person isn't the one practicing black magic, because they come with smiles all the time. Then when witches and witch doctors, whatever you want to identify them, I just call them medicine men, because they go in either polarity. If someone breaks, like someone like me comes across and breaks their bad medicine, it goes back to them times 3, and they're greeted with it. The really powerful ones recognize this, and they could take a bundle of sage, let's say, and put this stuff into that bundle of sage, Now they take that sage and they put it down and let somebody buy it. Somebody's paying them to take that curse times 3 home. When they light that sage, that's the ceremony behind it. You've karmically taking their karma, and they're karmically free. So a lot of these old teachings, it's all vibrations and stuff like that. Like you could really start seeing vibrations when you're elevating your spirit through cleansing, through being good. And as life beats you down, if you can still keep a smile and keep going, and that's where you're getting more and more powerful. You're learning from all of this stuff and you're elevating your vibration up. If you're sitting there saying, I can't do this, that, and I can't keep doing this. And first of all, you should separate yourself from that situation, see what you're losing, and re-elevate yourself, balance yourself back out in whatever way that we do. My medicine's different than probably my sister's, and my medicine's different than Teresa's. My medicine's different than Nicole's. And every time I've logged in, I've seen Nicole working on her medicine. So what that tells me is that we've built such a safe place that she's able to do that because she trusts everybody here. These are things we have to think about when we're going to buy crystals. Ancient, when you hear about the genie of wherever the genie is from, Aramaic, Islam, there's no lamp. There was never a lamp that they did. They trapped all of these evil spirits into a crystal, and that's why I have crystals in here. They put it into a crystal and they would try banish the crystal somewhere where no one would find it. Well, what happens when somebody found that crystal and rubbed it and released this thing? Do they give wishes and stuff? I don't know. I can't say, and I don't want to even know. So I'm not going to attract that kind of stuff in my life. When you're dealing with ancient stuff, then it starts getting really scary because who knows how to settle that anymore. Then you get some people that are light workers, and in our Nuyem, they said the rememberers. They're going to remember how to do this by instinct. And when you watch these rememberers, we have one in our family that was able to close a portal in a house, and she just had dug a hole, put rocks in, buried it up in a certain way, and said that's the way it's done. And you trust that because that's so pure of a teaching, and that's a rememberer coming back in. So right now we're in a very interesting timeline where the veil is getting thinner and thinner. If you look at 2012, you watch all of those ghost hunting videos, all those ghost hunters coming out, they barely even caught anything. They might have been a blip on a recording where it's like, oh, could have that been a ghost, to make a whole episode around this one little tiny sound? Nowadays, it's everywhere. You're seeing the veil opening up, and that's part of the prophecy of the timeline we're in now, as the veil is opening up. They said in the time where the money system and the government system kind of fall and we're forced to go back to the earth, we're going to see Bigfoot, we're going to see fairies again. I have a vision of Ouija returning. All of this stuff to me is absolutely real. Everything that I was told, I truly believe in, especially in the olden times. I have it in my heart that it absolutely happened the way my grandfather told me. I have no doubt no doubt in my mind that what he said to me was the truth. So I'm lucky enough to have a counselor or a therapist that is of ancestry, because if I was to tell a non-Aboriginal person my beliefs, especially a therapist or a counselor, I would be really worried on what they would, maybe I'd end up in a hospital. Listen to his belief system, listen to what he's saying, and they have the power to do that. So I'm very lucky to have the one counselor that I'm seeing right now, because I kind of tested her the very first couple times to see what her belief system was, to see how powerful she was. Then when I knew that she was of the light, I really said, okay, now I'm going to let you into my world and tell you this, that. And she was like, wow. She really was able to absorb and understand everything I was saying, because we walk the same walk. we're in the same world. And much of us here, you know, Friday night, where I was 20 years ago, Friday night, I was destroying my body. I thought drinking was just the coolest thing. And I wake up puking every next day and destroying my vibration, abusing myself. Now, this is what I get high off. Honestly, this gives me such a rush. The first time we did this, I was messaging back with Paul Khanith and Teresa, and it was like talking to both of them. That was so awesome. This is what we're gonna do. We started planning way ahead, and the next day I woke up, messaged. I'm still buzzing. Like this just brought such a life back, and I could feel that energy right now going through my hairline. Hey, typically seers and feelers. If I was to sit like this, and someone came up here, your ears feel that energy and they pull back and you look back and there's no one there. That's a ghost basically staring at you. It doesn't mean it's a bad ghost, but your body could pick up these polarities, eh? Is there any other questions or comments or anything? Anyone want to tell any actual ghost experiences that they've been through? Or
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you or anyone here has heard protocols around no singing or drumming during the first year of grief. I feel like I vaguely heard that growing up. It was never really explained to me. I've also heard that quite a bit in other nations and tribes that I've come across in my travels over the years. Seems to be a pretty common one. Maybe the one that's like they all have kind of thing.
Well, I'll tell you a story. I was at my last training last year. We met very powerful Wet'suwet'en woman, and the Wet'suwet'en women are so powerful. They go out and get their own moose. They don't wait around for anything. They're dip netting. They're getting all of their fish, and I'm just mind blown on how powerful these women are. Even their elders, when the elder came to the camp, she wouldn't even let me get her coffee. Like there's nothing I could do it myself, get up and do it. And I was like, I'm just not even going to ask these individuals if they want anything, because they're so independent and strong, really, really strong. Like I was so impressed. Um, Mona, we call her Mona Nazel. She actually gifted me this. It's a drumstick, and it's a very, very powerful drumstick. She got it as a gift, and I gifted her a rattle, and she had to give me something in return, she felt, and that meant a lot to her. And now I use it for everything. You could even see where I'm wearing out the paint and stuff that was on it. But she had that teaching as well. She had a recent loss in her family, and she was told, you can't sing, you can't sing. She runs the dance group at the where she is. She runs that dance group, and it was really hard on her. And as we were at Soaring Spirits Rediscovery training, she allowed herself to drum, and she said, I feel I need to. I feel that even though I know what they're saying, I feel that I'm supposed to. I think my brother would understand. And she drummed, and that night she dreamt of her brother. And after that, she actually had to go out of camp to facilitate a drumming for another important event. And we're like, yeah, you got to go. That's your responsibility. Go ahead. So I know that teaching is out there, but I would go with what your heart tells you. If you think it's wrong, you already know. And if you're asking the question, then you already know the answer to it. Should I be doing this? Should I? Your vibration will let you know. Sometimes if you're not doing this, where is that vibration going to take you? For myself, I don't know why I have anxiety for teaching and doing these for our people. When I use this platform, typically for cultural awareness for colleges and universities, I'm in the zone. I don't have to second guess anything. But when it's for my own people, there's a vibration there that I really want to do my best. I want to teach my best and be able to articulate the best. I get really nervous. So right before I did that, I sang a couple songs on my drum, and I settled my energy, not just within me, but again, the walls of my house are bouncing this energy back all the time. And that was the importance of washing your walls. That was another step in death too, is washing those walls. Some ghosts won't go away. even if you're using Oaksley, you're actually supposed to, at that point of a ghost, a malevolent one, it could be a family member that is mad. To expel it out of your house, you have to use Devil's Club bark. It separates them. When you burn Devil's Club bark, be ready to cough. It's really hoarse on your throat. Like right away, you're gonna feel it like no other smoke that you've ever had. And when I tried it out, I just wanted to try. I was like, I didn't know you could burn it like that. I found that in the archive. So I tried it out and it really hurt my lungs. I was coughing away. I had to open up my doors and stuff like that. But that's how we're able to separate those ones that were there. Is there any?
I just like to touch base with my practices around singing and when I'm mourning. So I've been gifted songs to hold since 1994, so that's 30 years. And I've encountered many teachings around singing in the year of mourning. And one thing that works for me, and it may not work for everybody, is grounding myself and making sure that I am conscious of what energies that I'm emanating and singing with, right? So I take breaks on a day by day basis, case by case basis. And I know the days that I can sing, and I know the days where I should just let other people sing and just witness. So I think each person has to find what works for them these days. And so that's what I do. I just like sometimes I am grieving really hard and I can't sing for a year, sometimes two. But then sometimes it's the calling and you know when you have to. Well, and you know when you're ready.
We
That
also
was
had morning songs too. I think that most of them have gone to sleep now, but we did have morning songs that were sung specifically to emulate, our grief and stuff like that. So I believe that at one point those songs would have been sung when we were like laying a loved one to rest or putting a loved one to rest. And the other thing that always sticks out in my mind too is how much even like burials have changed. Like we didn't bury our people before. We used to, they would be put in bentwood boxes essentially and be suspended in treetops. And so that whole process of burying someone is something totally different too, and brand new to us. Because one of my teachings in my family is, well, as soon as the loved one's buried and covered, you stop. You don't cry. You don't cry at the gravesite, type of thing. And so that made me kind of wonder where a lot of these teachings are truly coming from. And same with like the 1 year of not doing something when our times were measured by harvesting cycles and things like that versus the calendar year that we follow now, so same with wearing black for a year or wearing black at all, like really have to. I always struggle with trying to find balance within the new world that we live in, plus trying to anchor a lot of my beliefs in what was once before, because one of the things in our quote unquote Nuyem is that it's important to let go of your grief and not hold on to that. And that's why I believe the hired mourners or criers were there too, to kind of help you process that grief as well, to remind you to let go of that spirit, to let go of that person. The other thing I came across in one of the archive documents too is that you wouldn't mention that loved one's name for a while after they passed. You wouldn't bring up their name again. But also another beautiful thing that I found as well too is usually a baby born into that family after a loved one has passed on was always believed to be that person coming back. So our beliefs in reincarnation are pretty profound as well too. And I always thought that was a beautiful belief that we carry.
Yeah, those mourning songs are so important for surfacing the grief, and I don't know any of them. I would love to learn one, but
I'm not sure when was working with Ab, we acquired some Heisla recordings of singing of the elderly lady singing. They're still on SoundCloud actually. But Ab, you might recall we were kind of scolded and we were told to remove 2 of those songs, I believe, because they were mourning songs. They were grieving songs. So
oh,
maybe
they're
he still has one of them.
I think
of our
that's so
songs too.
unfortunate. I
it's
think
so
that's so unfortunate. It's really
Yeah.
important to keep those going. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
there was one song that I didn't delete it. It's just hidden. So it's still out there, but it's just hidden from the public. So it's still online.
I'm gonna have to find it.
She's hinting for you to send it to her. If there's anything I know, it's Heisel women hinting, because working at the Elder Center, it's like what a guy should do. And I was like, am I that guy? Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody knows somebody.
Yeah. And they're looking right at you like, why don't you just ask me? But that was our way back then, is you should be jumping to honor your elders for those things. And I think it was a cute way of enticing to kind of be playful at the same time and nourish the question asked to be received in such a way. Our language was completely different than English and the way English represents. It was really straight up. So you see a lot of those elders that just tell you something straight up and it's blunt, and in the English it would be totally rude, but that's just how our language worked. There's no messing around. There's no building up this big giant sentence to try sugar top a question. It was just straight right there. And that's why a lot of those elders say it like that and they don't think anything of it, is because that's remnants in the English language that attaches to our language. You'll hear it when they talk about someone, let's say, that's his story. He owned that story. It was his story to tell. And it's just, that's how it would be structured in our language when they spoke. It's really cool seeing that and getting into our language and stuff. I think everybody here has a different inspiration through everything we've done today. It's starting to attach in all together, and starting off today with Ab and his work, and then going into Teresa, and then coming into this discussion. That's a lot to absorb. Where else in our nation are you going to be able to get this information in one-stop shop? And this is still just the tip of the iceberg. I was thinking last night, how far can we keep going with these Nuyem nights? And I think we can go for like years. And the more people that get involved, we could start like documenting all of this a lot better. Who was it? Brian Compton that did those? Did they do the bloodline interviews? They interviewed Dan Paul, and underneath they had a family tree. And everybody that came into the archive, I gave him, when Megan came, I gave her babas. And she was like, oh my God, look, as he was being interviewed, I was a baby and he was talking to me. And she had a big emotional response, eh? And I said, that's why it's important. And then each one, they talked about the families and the bloodlines.
That was Jay Powell.
Jay Powell, yes. Okay. So those are really good because we have a lot of questions from people that are rediscovering a lot of stuff right now, and we need someone in there to be able to basically look at certain things to help people out. So I'm glad I know where to find them again.
One
So
my final thought was, or sharing, was the before my grand passed away, I had so many questions for her, and she knew her time with us was very limited, so she poured as much knowledge and information as she could into me and shared with me. And one of the things that she shared with me is when you're burning or when you're saying goodbye to a loved one and you know it's their time to cross over, you tell them in our language to not look back. It's the Ab, you might have a better translation or be able to help me out with this one better, but it's the Daduquila, I believe is what she had said. And it was to not look back, basically allowing her spirit to be free, allowing their spirits to be free, and allowing them to move ahead in their journey into the spirit world without worrying about who they're leaving behind. And so that was a very important teaching for me, as tough as it was. But her teaching that to me, that was one of the last things that I was able to say to her in our language. I returned those teachings back to her by saying those words to her. I thanked her for being my teacher, and I told her, "Gitsi dadukula, don't look back. We're okay." And so I feel like that's a really important one for people to know, like, you know, because you want them to journey on without having to worry about us back here. So I thought that was a really important one to share.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's been really good for my soul.
Yeah, I feel really good again.
So-
I was really tired today coming into this. I went into School District 82 and performed two different protection ceremonies, basically for two different groups. And when you're putting that much love and light into protecting and people, it drains you. So I actually had a cup of coffee. It didn't wake me up all so much, and it was this that woke me back up. And I really feel all the energy around. It's such good energy. Were you gonna say something, Coralie?
Yeah, I was gonna thank Teresa. You just reminded me of another ceremony that I was taught for death. And it has exactly to do with Kitsi Dadakura. So every single person here has different gifts, and every ceremony finds its way to the next holder. And what you'll find is that these ceremonies find you, these songs find you. And that was part of what I was communicating earlier. I have to find that. That's our way of putting it out into the universe, of being ready for teachings to come your way. But you have to trust that if they're meant to find you, they'll find you. And if you're meant to learn, you'll learn, or you'll find another way. So our family has a brushing off ceremony. And when someone in our family passes away, some people that hold the ceremony are called to the house. And what we do is we help the soul transition easier so that they don't look back, especially when there has been an unexpected death. You're called to the house and we do a brushing off ceremony. And that's exactly for that, so that they don't look back and they're not bound to the body. And they can transition easier to come back and be reborn again into our family. Thank you, Teresa. And thank all of you for these nights and creating this space.
So Paul Kanique said she's gonna sing another rediscovery song first. And,
No.
I heard
Next time. Next time.
yeah, I was just teasing, throwing it out in the universe. So.
I heard it on the wind. Giving thanks for the coming together of hearts in a good way, in a loving way, in a sacred way. Giving thanks for all the things that were shared and felt and received and heard and listened to and deepened into during our time together. Giving thanks for the ripple effect and impact that's going to have in the days and weeks and months and years to come. Giving thanks for the knowledge stirring awake inside of us, coming back alive in our hearts and our spirits, here to be kindled and blown life into. Giving thanks for all the things that support us in this journey of reclamation and reparation as we find our way back to ourselves. Giving thanks and honoring the returning of the language, the returning of the traditional knowledge, giving thanks to the returning of that place inside of us that's never gone away, that we only deepen into over time. Giving thanks for the ways in which we are guided and held and protected as we journey deeper into the knowing of our ancestral connection, and giving thanks for all the ways in which this will benefit seen and unseen, big and small. Giving thanks and honoring the ways in which the land continues to inform us and shape us as a people. May that bond only continue to strengthen and grow and define and influence and inspire us. Honoring that kinship, that intertwined connectedness and aliveness that we share with the land, and the ways in which that fills us, that nurtures our strong light inside. Giving thanks for that strong light inside, for continuing to grow and strengthen over time, regardless of hardship and heartache. May that strong light inside continue to grow and strengthen over time, honoring all the things, big and small, seen and unseen, that make that strong light inside even stronger. Honoring and giving thanks for all the things that were shared. May we carry it with lightness and with beauty and with connectedness in a good way, in a loving way, in a sacred way. Honoring and giving thanks for this drumbeat, beating, echoing the drumbeat of heartbeat of Mother Earth. Honoring and giving thanks for our Mother Earth, the ways in which she holds us, guides us, provides for us. Giving thanks and honoring the coming together of hearts in a good way, in a loving way,